Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're wanting to provide you with an update on our Integrated Solid Waste Management System project, or ISWMS as we fondly call it. So you'll recall that our agreement was signed with the preferred bidder in 2017, and we were now wanting to update where we're at with that whole process. So today we're going to sign a couple of early works agreements, and we want to be able to give you the opportunity to be able to witness the signing of those agreements. This is an important step for us, and so we're wanting to share it publicly. So before we get to that point, I want to introduce Honorable Alden McLaughlin, our Premier, who will be giving us a few words with respect to this occasion, and also our Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, who will also be giving us some remarks in this regard. So I'll just go straight then to Honorable Premier for your remarks, and then Minister of Health, and then invite the members of the media who are in studio to ask a couple of questions prior to the signing. Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Chief. Hello, everyone. We are here today to mark an event that is of historical significance to the nation and indeed of considerable personal importance to me as a representative of the people and as a Caymanian. The current solid waste management project began during my last administration when I served as Minister of Health, among other things. The negotiations that followed the announcement of the preferred bidder began during this second term as Premier. We all know that the problem of solid waste management has been around for many, many years. Shortly after we signed these documents this afternoon for early works on the Integrated Solid Waste Management System project, we will reach a point where the people of the Cayman Islands can begin to see the realization of government's vision for waste management in the country. I would like to take a moment to remind you of how we got to this point. The consortium led by the DART group was identified after careful consideration by the ISWMS project team as the preferred bidder because its proposal best follows the recommendations in the outline business case and offers the greatest value for money. Spearheaded by DECO Limited, which is DART's construction and development division, the bid team also includes local firm Island Recycling, who's partnered with Guernsey Recycling Group. They will deal with the recycling and composting aspects of ISWMS. The bid team is also comprised of the Denmark-based company Burmeister & Wain Scandinavian Contractor for construction of the waste-to-energy facility. The US-based firm Cambridge Project Development, Inc. will deal with the residual landfill component, and the international consultancy firm GHD completes the group, handling environmental and design aspects of the new facility. Government's Major Projects Office has been leading the ISWMS project team and is assisted by the Department of Environmental Health in taking the initiative forward. We have representatives of both entities here today to assist with answering the technical questions which may come. Specialist consultants Wood, KPMG, as well as Maples and Calder and Burgess Salmon were engaged to provide technical, financial, and legal services for the project through the project stages. Today, the heartfelt thanks of the nation should go to all parties concerned, given that the current Georgetown landfill, which reaches the end of its life in 2024, is to be replaced with the new ISWMS facilities, including an energy recovery facility that will generate significantly less volumes of waste material in the form of ash. The new ISWMS system, when it is fully in place and operational, is expected to process and divert up to 90% of waste from being landfilled in the future, achieving a sustainable solution for solid waste management in these islands. As such, government very much looks forward to signing the final contract for the consortium to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the full ISWMS facilities by the end of the year.
Thank you, Premier, for those remarks. I'll go now to Minister of Health, Honorable Dwayne Seymour, for your remarks, sir.
Thank you, Nellie. Today marks a milestone event for government, the Ministry of Health, and the DART-led consortium. As the Premier has said, after 2 years of negotiation, we are here to sign a number of agreements for pre-construction works that would advance key elements of this integrated solid waste management system project. The project will also be the Cayman Islands' first public-private partnership. The signed agreements will allow the consortium to continue the remediation and capping of the existing Georgetown landfill at the estimated cost of $200 million. Sorry, at $20 million. Correction. Following today's signing, the consortium will be able to finalize design details for the project, including the energy recovery facility, otherwise known as the waste to energy. This will take place ahead of an environmental impact assessment and submissions to the planning department. The closure, capping, and remediation of the Georgetown landfill will be undertaken in phases, with the entire mound covered with an initial regulating layer by the end of this year and the entire remediation completion by mid-2022. The Department of Environmental Health is currently clearing an area of the Georgetown landfill adjacent to the Estella Tibbetts Highway to allow landfilling to continue on the site without increasing the height of the main mound. This will remain in place until the new energy recovery facility is completed at the end of 2024. I am so pleased that we were able to get this far with this project. I must confess, at times in caucus, Premier said to me, "Minister, you really think we should go ahead with this? It's taken a long time to negotiate." And my answer was always, "I think we got it, Premier. We're on to it." But then it kept going on. The perseverance of the negotiating team, the ministry, the caucus, of which sometimes felt it wasn't achievable. And so many politicians or ministers who tried to solve this gigantic problem. Essentially, the winner is the environment. And for that dedication, all parties ought to be applauded. This is one of the government's goals, and I'm so proud the Premier kept his confidence in me and decisions that we made to get to this point. Waste to energy is definitely the right way to go. And our children can be proud that we had the vision to make this a priority. I want to thank the DART Consortium, the Governor for his support, the Deputy Governor, the Attorney General. I want to personally thank the Acting Chief Officer, Ms. Nellie Pucci, who made great strides, the Ministry, the Major Projects Office. I want to personally thank Sir Peter Ranger for leading the government's charge, really making a difference. I want to thank DH, Mr. Richard Sims, the government of the day for their support for such a complex and yet long overdue project. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you also, Your Excellency, for joining us today to witness this, the signing of the agreements. Really appreciate it, sir. Also, with respect to the persons, the media that are in-house, I will offer an opportunity to ask a few questions at this time prior to the signing of the agreement. Okay.
Hello, this is Kayla from the Cayman Compass. I wanted to ask, why did it take 3 years to get from announcement of this agreement to the signing today? What happened between then and now?
In a nutshell, very complex negotiations.
What made those negotiations complex?
there are so many moving parts with respect to a complex project like this. Being able to negotiate the parameters of them and the cost of them are really what has taken this long. There were points, as the minister has alluded to, when the sort of numbers that came in made us feel that this was just not a viable project. They've had to go back out, rethink the whole, or some aspects of the overall plan, and come back in with refinements which have led to this point where we're still not ready to sign the final agreement, but we are confident, both sides are confident enough to get on with some of the early works so that the project can move ahead and not have to wait further until we actually sign on the dotted line. Things like the work that's going on now with the covering of the landfill are critical, because it is the lack of that sort of treatment that has resulted in the many fires we've had. So whether or not the rest of the project were to go ahead, we felt that that aspect of it must proceed. And so that work has been ongoing even before we actually signed these early works agreements. And should, God forbid, and we don't expect that to be the case, there isn't final agreement, obviously government would then pay for the work that had been done, which was and is necessary in any event. I'm afraid I can't be more specific because I wasn't involved with the actual negotiations, but we have lots of the people here who are actually involved, should you need more detail.
And looking to the sister islands in Cayman Brac, we have this medical waste and sewage scenario that's creating an immediate health concern. What is being done right now to address that situation, and is the medical incinerator in the Brac now functioning?
We're obviously very, very keenly aware of the circumstances there. I can't say whether the medical incinerator has yet been repaired. We have had a discussion with the director, and we have agreed, the caucus and cabinet, that the incinerator should be replaced. But these things take time to do. In the future, once this ISWMS project comes online, we won't have to be grappling with these issues, because all of the waste in the sister islands will be brought to Cayman to be dealt with or principally through the waste energy facility, but otherwise there won't be a landfill facility needed in either of the islands thereafter. We're still looking quite a ways down the road. Obviously, the minister spoke as far away as 2024, a clear indication of the complexity of the project. But we think, and I believe the entire country believes, that it is the way to go. We are too small in size, in physical size. We generate too much waste for any other option to be viable. We can't continue landfilling because we're going to run out of space very, very soon, certainly in the next, by the end of the century, if we continue down the current road. And waste energy makes all the sense in the world, because we hope thereby to also reduce further the cost of producing electricity, which is always a major concern.
And there was a concern at the Brac landfill that they don't have enough medical waste containers to store the buildup of medical waste they have, and that they would need also special containers to be able to transport their waste to Grand Cayman for this future plan. Are there any containers being acquired, either to immediately address the medical waste situation or to allow the sister islands waste to be properly and safely transported from there to Grand Cayman?
The medical waste in the Brac is to be burnt through the incinerator. The problem is that the incinerator has broken.
Many times.
I can't answer the other questions. I don't have that level of technical detail.
Yeah, Premier, if I may, I'd ask the director to step to the podium, please. And he may have more information on that. I think Kayla, you can stay there and he can.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just to update you on the question in relation to what's happening for the medical waste in Cayman Brac. We're currently conducting repairs on the incinerator. Hopefully, it should be up and running within the next 2 weeks. And as the Premier alluded to, the long-term plan for Cayman Brac waste is to ship it here and dispose of it here in the longer term. But and also in the interim, what we're looking at is trying to purchase a new incinerator that will, service the Brac for at least the next 3 years or so. So, but within the next 2 weeks, we should have it repaired.
And the containers?
The containers, we are also sorting out those issues with the containers for storage. So, all those things will be taken care of next couple.
Just one last question for you regarding the waste to energy plan. Do we have a timeline? At what point do we expect that to be produced and available for use by the island?
The waste energy plan would be the last element of the plan, so we wouldn't expect that to come online much before 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Can you just explain the capping? I thought it has already been going on all this year. So what are the works that we've just signed now?
The capping, that is a part of it. What we did there was we were having a lot of fires at the landfill. And obviously we put a layer on top of the landfill, which has helped tremendously. There's been no fires since but the actual capping itself couldn't go on until we signed the actual agreement. But we had to. Okay,
so what works have been going on then?
Well, we had to give emergency approval. The caucus and the cabinet gave emergency approval to the DART consortium to try to assist with the emergency situation in terms of the fires that were continuing to ruin people's lives in the area. And it definitely helped. Thank God that we worked so quickly before a signed agreement to actually approve these works as a way to stop the fires. And with this early works agreement and the capping and remediation, there'll be much more work to be done, including lining and everything else, to ensure that there's no more fires. Thank God.
Okay, so we're building a sort of temporary new pile somewhere else. So we're not going to be using the landfill as it is anymore to put the rubbish on as we go forward. So there's a new pile going to emerge somewhere else on the grounds.
This is already existing.
So has that been lined?
No.
So we're just going to pile. Will that rubbish that's piling up be used in the W2E later on? So will that be excavated and put back in?
No, that's going to be capped and remediated.
So there'll be 2 mounds then that will be capped and remediated?
Well, it won't be as high as the mound that we have now.
Okay.
The area that we will be using whilst the top mound is being remediated is old Ivan debris. That area where the old Ivan debris was housed. So it's not a new area.
Okay, so where will the ash go once the WTE is up and running? Like the residual?
Well, I could get Peter to come up and answer some of those more technical.
Thank you, Minister. Peter Ranger, Chief Project Manager, Public Works. So just to answer a few of the questions. So as the Minister said, what will happen is the landfilling will continue for the next few years alongside estuary Tibbets, and the area of land is about 5 acres, which was previously filled with Hurricane Ivan waste. So it already is a dump. Once that is finished, it will be closed capture remediated. We then move on to our waste energy plant. So the waste energy plant is going to last 25 plus years. That produces ash, and we put that ash in what's called a residual waste landfill, which is going to be on the existing Georgetown landfill site, which is currently covered with mixed metals and waste. So brand new residual waste will go there on the existing landfill. If that makes sense. And back to Minister's point of 90% diversion. So you imagine you've got a landfill where you're just putting residential waste. If that lasted 5 years under the new diversion targets, it will actually last 50 years. So that's back to the point that government's ambition through all of this process was to keep waste management located at the Georgetown landfill, which is what this project achieves. Okay.
Okay, thanks. That's a little bit clearer. Also, the costs, you're saying that this capping part alone is 20 million. Given that originally, that I'm not sure whether that was included in the sort of original bid. So do we have a target now as to actually how much? I mean, I know it's difficult because you're still in negotiations, but how much are the public looking at for this project now at this point? I mean, I'm hearing it's double, so I don't know if you want to respond to that.
We don't have that information available yet. Obviously, we're at least about 3 months off from signing the main agreement.
And that's when you'll be able to reveal how much. Yeah. Okay, CUC, are they still on board with this in terms of using the energy, and have they agreed a rate yet?
They're still a part of the equation and ongoing negotiations. That hasn't been finalized as yet.
Also, now if we're looking at 2024 or whatever, before the WTE is actually up and running, it's still quite a long time. What plans do we have to deal with all the other part of the inverted pyramid that we've never really addressed, which is encouraging people to reuse, or in fact to reduce first and foremost, then reuse and then recycle, because we're still at tiny percentages on that front. So over the next 4 years, what plans do we have to try and really ramp that up?
That's still on target. We're actually trying to call a meeting within the next 10 days of the plastics committee. So that's still on our target to do recycling, and to make that a big part of a big community effort to get the community involved in this process.
What about the other two, like the reduce and the reuse? I mean, there's never really been any education campaigns that we were told there would be. So I just wondered where you're at with that, policy-wise.
There's a lot of considerations. I mean, what the public doesn't know is, and we haven't told anyone, we actually was going to have a pilot project in an area in Cayman, a recycling, where we would pick up recycling right from your door. We actually had a special truck ordered, but the truck came incorrect, came right-sided instead of left-sided, the arm. So that really foiled our attempt to make a difference. That was a little surprise for the public, but so there's a lot of considerations, but all those things are still on the table. Nothing is off the table.
So in other words, you're still considering collection for recycling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Finally, the whole once it's up and running, will there be a greater effort to will we still be doing the collecting? In other words, will that still be in the public sector, or will the consortium be responsible for collecting everything? Because I know they've got composting, we've got recycling, we're going to have all these different elements. So will the Department of Environmental Health still be collecting our garbage, or will that go to the private sector? The
collections remains with the DEH.
And that would be for recycling and composting and everything?
Yeah.
Or would people still be expected to take their composting to the dump? Like, how would it all work?
Well, You're getting into some areas there now.
Sorry, it's
That,
just that we have so little info.
Yeah. And Peter, I think you can help me out here.
Thanks, Minister. Yeah, so to answer that question, it's similar to the existing scenario where the public take their waste to the new facility. So there's obviously materials reprocessing, household waste recycling, construction demolition waste, composting. So again, that's for the public. DH obviously still continue the collections, and we're looking at also other ways of how DH integrate into the final solution as well. So, but primarily, what we're contracting with DART to do is to process the waste. So it still remains with government as to how that waste gets there. Okay.
Anything outside that facility?
Yeah. And again, sorry, so also the DH, all the collections from the sister islands come bulked back to Georgetown as well. So the ISWMS facility will be the central point for all three islands for processing that waste. Yeah, and that will be the responsibility of the consortium.
Any final question? Okay.
Yes, I'm Christopher Topat. I'm with the Caymanian Times. And I'm not too sure what's been signed and what hasn't been signed so far. I understand there's some signing going to go ahead in the future, but there's also some signing that's already gone ahead, hasn't there? Can we just have a really simple breakdown of what's already been signed and what's been committed and what hasn't been signed?
I think Chief Officer, you want to take?
Yeah. Well, I could venture, but those who have closer, better information, let me go ahead.
Okay. So previously, the ministry signed agreements, you'll recall, for tires, shredding and processing, and also some metal works that were done in the past. Obviously, this agreement today does incorporate some of that as well, because not all of that was removed from the site. So in part of remediating the site, we'll need to cover those areas. I can't speak to what the exact amounts are at this point, but it's something we can definitely get to you following this briefing. Because what we're intending to do, I think one of the points that came up as well in terms of an educational aspect, we want to be able to launch that educational campaign as well around what capping and remediation involves and what the public can expect to see with respect to that site. And that would also take into account what's going to happen, a bit more details of what will happen at the Georgetown landfill site. So we'll also be able to address some of the concerns that you've just raised. And just at the end of the briefing, we'll invite the media as well to be able to reach out to Marcia in GIS or Suzette with whatever queries you have, so that we'll be able to address what we can't get to in the short time today.
The agreement's being signed today, and what are the actual key points of that agreement?
Right. So that the agreements that we're doing now formally gives us the ability with the DART-led consortium to be able to cap and remediate the existing mound that you're seeing at the Georgetown landfill. And that will also involve some remediation works in terms of tires processing and metal works.
What's still in the balance? What's still being decided upon to be signed or not signed in the future?
Obviously, with the overall agreement, there are other aspects and other approvals that we need to be able to get, for example, an EIA. So we're not able to just go ahead and sign without those other parts happening, and we're not able to just speak to all of the specifics until those have actually been hashed out with the various entities that are involved in that.
Yes, okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, so I think we're good now. We'll move to the actual signing of the agreement. So I wanted to invite Mr. Cameron Graham from the DART group to come up, and also Mr. Peter Ranger, who's our lead project manager, and also Mr. Sims, who's hiding behind that thing, to come forward then to sign our agreements today.